All right, so this desire to create great wealth, it feels like it's only a good way to buy us enough time to live comfortably on this earth. And the truth is, when you gain too much of that, it creates a different set of drives, a different set of values. And you don't say things differently and the same as you used to. If you don't remember the taste of poverty, or if you're avoiding that at all costs, money doesn't fill that gap. It never can. It's an illusion that you have power because you have to buy protection to protect yourself. I'm talking about somebody that rides on a personality like Kanye West. That kind of paranoia can really build up inside of a person when he's trying to promote himself as a new billionaire, and that's fine. We all aspire to some sort of label, but that's not a label of character. That is a money achievement, and good for him for crossing that line. If he did, I don't know. But you can tell it's a major identity issue with him, and he's trying to come to terms with that. That $1 billion, man, that would be scary as hell to anybody. It feels like you're stuck on the antenna on top of the Empire State Building, and everything underneath you is responsible for yourself. Anybody would have a mental breakdown over that. Why do you think Obama went gray in office? I mean, he ain't nothing more stressful than having the weight of the world on your shoulders if you accept that weight when you accept that office. It uses a man up. That's why we provide our leaders Secret Service, everything. It doesn't matter who you are. The weight of directing our great ship of the United States as a guiding force in the world it's too big a picture for any one man to grasp. And that's where Donald Trump's downfall is. He's a micromanager, and it doesn't work. You have to trust the people under you. You have to, and if your heart is good, if your intentions are true, then it will show through. And a lot of times all you got to do is step back and let the machine do its thing. The only difference is, foreign policy directives and things like that, and all that sort of stuff the average American don't care about. And that's a tragedy, because that's to the detriment of the rest of the world, and that's why the rest of the world, in one form or another, either envies us or hates us because of our arrogance. And I think we do need a bit of a humbling as a nation. But to do that, you got to get some perspective. You got to quit playing into this game of shoving all the blame onto some imaginary criminal, because I tell you, the people that are Democrats are not anywhere different, any more or less inclined towards the wielding of the power than the Republicans. It's all about the power, okay? And it's a matter of the ideals, but the ideals have gotten lost. The ideals are muddied, and what I'm trying to do is shine a light on those ideals and get people to simply pause a minute and think about them. And why don't we decide as a nation what we want to stand for? Okay? Because no matter what you do, when you create something, you destroy something. And when you destroy something, it makes room for something else to become created. Okay? And you can apply that logic to a farm field, and then hopefully that gives you enough context if you're growing a crop or something along those lines. But even then, we have been put in a position as citizens, as individuals, not just to compete against the mega corporations, but we're required to make as much possible money as we possibly can in order to survive the lean years. What do I mean by the lean years? Well, everything has an ebb and a flow. Everything in life. There's a time for harvest, and there's a time of bounty, and there's a time of famine, and there's a time to break into the reserves. And if you don't have those reserves, when the famine comes, then you just starve. These are basic ideas that are lost in the blizzard of information, the language of manipulation, and everybody chopping at a single tree at a time instead of looking for what lies underneath. You've got to peel back those layers of the onion and look past the tears. in order to understand, in order to cut the strings that manipulate you, your thinking. If you consider the idea that man already has the knowledge of good and evil built inside him, or her, then your entire perspective can shift. Instead of creating a villainized criminal class in our society, our society is functionally bipolar. It's crazy. It's unsustainable. Anybody could do better if they can just put aside their sense of service to self long enough to look past the end of their own benefit for the rest of the world or the country. Or, hell, anything more than just the Republicans. That's just ridiculous. This is hyperpartisanship gone way too far. Unacceptable behavior in America, and everybody recognizes that. There is no centrist party anymore. Republicans are just fractured and pissed off. I mean, I'm talking the ones who pay attention. If you look at people, they're coming out by the hundreds, not by the dozens. And, the Republican Party lost my business. I think in my second year of Trump. I registered as an independent. I'm waiting on a third party to form it. And, the Republicans, they're going to rebuild because they got the power base. That's big oil and everything, man. I mean, there's a lot of resources there. Don't think they're not going to come back. They're already getting ready to slam Biden with the mess that he's inherited from Republicans. Now, I want you to think about something for just a second. Maybe I'm just going off the wall here, but didn't Obama inherit the same kind of mess that Biden's getting, but a hell of a lot worse? Now, don't get all scared. Don't get all bent out of shape. It doesn't matter. I think it's a blessing that Biden doesn't have that super charismatic personality, okay? What's important is that he will be oil on troubled waters, and there's not one thing that our nation needs more than this, than a chance to allow our country to heal. And I'm warning you, Republicans, you're making a big mistake. You're going to be making a huge mistake if you're going to start trumpeting the economy or the deficit after the last 4 years that we have endured. Okay, forget it. Y'all, what GOP contract with America got broken. Obama stepped in. Things were looking rosy as they were under Bill Clinton. I never felt like the economy was falling apart when Bill Clinton was in office, even when I listened to the Republicans. But there's always something to attack. So this aggressive use of our freedom of speech to attack others has to be addressed in our society. Yes, we deserve the freedom of speech to voice our thoughts, but we also deserve the freedom, the liberty, the breathing space to create that speech and to do it in an atmosphere without fear of retaliation. What kind of country arrests school children for throwing a tantrum? There are so many fail points in that statement right there. I'm not even getting into that. All right. Personal power is what we all want. And that's one of the overriding themes that I'm actually here, is once you actually figure out where those weak points are and you reclaim that personal power, your life improves so much. once you are able to understand that, even though, here's the big problem. Parents are like gods to their kids. And when we turn our backs in our teenage years, like everybody does, because we want to prove ourselves worthy of being an adult, so we say, hey, you can't teach me anything else. We turn our backs on our parents and we go out into the meat grinder after high school, and that's okay. That's what it's, there's a reason for that mechanism. But if you don't have the teaching of, 18 years of good, solid parenting behind you, then essentially you're just running away from a bad situation and carrying all that baggage with you. Now, that's what most of us do. We get through college or the college years best we can. Eventually we find a safe place to land, a place to stability, and so we reached a place of safety from our parents or our perceived ideas that their opinions count. And then we call ourselves an adult. Usually we'll just grab the first opposite sex member or, romantic sex member within reach and, settle down, have a baby, and call ourselves an adult with a good job, helping somebody else build their dream or providing service. There's a lot of different ways that you can, that's the only real freedom in America is what do you want to do for a living? Good luck in getting that job. Everything else is just, everything's for sale, especially your freedoms. If you don't have the money, you don't have the freedom. And that's a wrongness. If we operated our country just a little bit, with a little bit of value to our citizens, to our youth, there's the Euro-Rail. Let's examine that for just a moment, okay? You can get a Europass out of high school really cheap that can last a month or 3 months or however long. You can get back and forth. You don't have to afford and maintain a car in order to get from one country to another or from one place to another. Europe has an incredible rail system. It's not perfect, but it works. And it works for its citizens, not for its pocketbook. What a concept. But the point is to let those youth get out there and intermingle with the rest of the world, because in Europe it's a lot more important that you learn another language. English is the universal language because it's so flexible. But you still got different cultures and different culture class. Okay, one more time. Reinstitute rail cars, some affordable way to go back and forth and without having the need to get from California to New York in a day. We need to cool our jets a little bit. Money ain't everything. Money's not always healthy. Our country's not very healthy despite whatever economic growth you want to or losses you want to claim. It doesn't matter. We had a happening this year. It's not business as usual. If you try to equate this year with business as usual, you're just throwing snow in people's eyes, and it's BS. It goes way beyond. This year was the year that Yahweh chose to open our eyes as a nation, in order to open the eyes of the world. And there are so many people coming out of the woodwork right now that have had enough. We've waited for our leaders to do well. We've waited for our leaders to take a stand for good, and not just a stand against evil. We need our leaders to exhibit the moral qualities that includes human values, not just business ethics. When business ethics control politics, then our laws reflect that. So it's time to have a reverse trend in order for the human side to catch up. Truthfully, if we allow corporations this much power, then we deserve everything we've gotten. If you can't get rid of the emperor, if we can't vote out King Trump, wannabe King Trump, then the oligarchs win. I don't know who they are. You know, it's the Rockefeller syndrome. Call it that. When you've got more money than you know what to do with, it's time to walk away from that particular endeavor for your own humanity. Look, it doesn't really have much meaning. I mean, human beings have the ability to string together syllables and impart whatever meaning we want to on those syllables. And that's what we're seeing in place of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech should be your ability to voice your opinion, not to dictate to the masses. And when you dictate disinformation to the masses, to the citizens in an official capacity, then you need to be removed from office by your own party, not covered up, not glossed up. I think it's time that our nation entered an era of self-governance, of personal responsibility. And, you know, I've never seen a time in my life that was worth fighting the fight for this, but it is. It's time. If you get, there's a lot of people waking up and realizing, our leaders aren't doing what they promised. And the corporations aren't considering the base. They're only considering, oh, sure, they've got diagnostics and everything to show just how far they can push the American people. But that doesn't include the American spirit. The idea that when we rise up and we take our own power into our own hands, nobody else can take that from us. You can kill me, but you can't hurt me anymore. Economic, sure, go ahead. Do your worst, because you are. Whoever is enabling our system to be shredded, our Constitution to appear broken, it's definitely hurting and need amending. And if we don't change the Constitution in the next 3 or 4 years, out of or even 5, it may take 3 or 4 years for the idea to catch on. I mean, there's so much snow out there and people grasping at straws, anything for validation, for hope, and there's none to be had. Politics is a way of life in America. And you're going to hear all sorts of villainization. But who cares? I'll take a cup of Joe over a hole in a bucket any day. It doesn't matter. But after the election, what are you going to do? You're going to ignore politics from then on? You're going to carry on? You're going to business as usual? You're going to just forget about it? A lot of people pay attention to during a presidential election. And then they walk away and they'll forget about politics for another 4 years. It's kind of like Easter in churches. Hey, Easter's coming up. I heard Easter's coming up. Can we go see do the Easter egg hunt? A lot of people, the only time they ever attend church is at Easter or at Christmas. So, that's why churches go all out and throw those nativity plays and things like that to entertain people and give them an opportunity to come and visit. Because people want to be involved socially, and they want to feel acceptance, and they want to feel hope. These are basic human needs of the soul. If we can agree as a nation the value of a human soul, and we can declare the sovereignty of every human being on the planet, that does not compel us to go and fix everything all at once. And that's the fear of politicians, that if they admit to responsibility or good, it's just going to cascade and snowball into something that is unmanageable. That's why you see the resistance to change and economics as the only indicator of what's right or wrong. Might makes right on the right. That's it. Who's got the power? They got the authority. They create the truth. In this case, Trump's like a cat without a shredding post. He's just going after everything possible with all four paws. He's got all his buddies helping him. Leaders is what we desire. It's what we thirst for. It's what we crave. And when we see absolute looters, and every presidential cycle, you're going to hear the same rumors. And they're probably true. They've got their loopholes just like everybody else. That's how people get rich. It's finding a loophole, or, because if there's the more power you have, the more legal advice you can afford. And if you've got a manipulative personality, then you try to manipulate the law to do your bidding. That's business ethics. Those are not human ethics. That is the language of manipulation. It's not the language of persuasion. Money has become the only language of persuasion that we have in our country. And that's just not right, because money is nothing but a tool. It's an imaginary flow of the heartbeat of our nation that we've created. It's what is the lifeblood of a business. Humans need shelter, safety, food, oxygen, water, and purpose. You can't denounce any one people, especially not based on their economic situation or their mental health, when the government has allowed or created the conditions for this to happen. And that's where we're losing the sense of responsibility from those in power. They're so disconnected. The thing is, when you've got something to lose, you'll toe the party line. Once you get invested in your own self-worth as based on money and power, then you're trapped. It's a sickness. It becomes a sickness. It can become a sickness to your soul. And I don't think it's possible to have a leader without them influencing some form of the civilian marketplace. You just can't villainize everybody for their family getting rich or something like that. You got to understand that people come with a heart of good intentions. If they do come with a heart of good intentions, that will show. If they come in with a deceitful heart, well, havoc reigns. And that chaos is good for nobody but the corporate side of America. So it's time to redress the balance as a nation. If we don't band together, if we don't create a third individual party, if we don't stand for accountability, okay? Now the Democrats, they go for the rights of the smallest minority faction they can go for. And to them that proves everything else. And yet that alienates everybody on the right so easily. And that's because we have a breakdown in perception in our country of what it's supposed to be here for. What's our purpose to live on earth? It's not just to make babies and serve the government so that our babies can serve the government. We get a voice in America, and we've allowed it through our leaders being so inept and being manipulated, or being part of the problem. Doesn't matter. Or just being a lone voice with ideals that isn't party friendly. So we have to change our hearts from within before we see an outward expression of that. So our hearts are full of discontent and chaos. And the thing is, a drowning person will reach and cling to anything, to any belief that they feel ensures their best survival. We're all driven by self-interest. If you are a drowning person and there's somebody drowning beside you and you have equal capabilities or something like that, neither one of you can swim very good, you're most likely to drown that person, saving yourself. It can become a battle to the death, literally, in the right situation. So we got to recognize that, and we've got to decide what's good and evil. It's time to redress that understanding, our evolution of understanding of our Creator, of how we want to worship Him, and how we want to let that influence our lives in our country through our politics. I saw a man hold up a Bible, and it looked like his hand was on fire, so to speak. It was the ultimate hypocrisy. I'm sorry. It was the second worst thing that I've seen Trump do domestically. The first being changing the Resolute desk to the Goya desk. That just killed me. But hey, why not? If we need a new constitution, we need a new desk in the Oval Office too. That sucker's just been tainted, and sorry, and apologies to the Queen of England, but geez, man. Every time I think about the Oval Office, I see a row of Goya bean cans. That's not good for me or my country. You know, there's a lot of historical hurt surrounding the Civil War, the symbolism, because truthfully, slavery never really got to have its say about the Civil War. True, it was addressed somewhat in the story of Roots, the series, and that for me broke the actual idea of the chains of slavery. That I don't think we'll ever allow that again. Well, I'd like to say that, but the way we're going right now leads to concentration camps and chain gangs and regressing. And I think we can all agree that Jim Crow is a loser. None of us want to live in that narrow a world point. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous to think that you can find God in a molecule. It's too dangerous to think that you can have a molecular thought of your culture and narrow your viewpoint down to where only your own kind are the only good ones around and everybody else is an enemy. And that's where we're at, the perception. It's all about perception, people. You know, the human emotions are no different from a piano or an organ or a guitar or any musical instrument you care to name. It's just unrecognized. We don't recognize that as a nation and put it, because if you do, then you put a stop to it. If you recognize that everybody is being manipulated all the time, and we're trained that if you don't manipulate people, you can't get them on your side. You can't present a fair and balanced viewpoint on anything. So it's not just identifying the language of manipulation, but identifying the major issues that divide us and asking the hard questions, once again, from ground zero. You want to talk about abortion and life and controlling a woman's personal choice? Ooh, that's scary to me. That's horrible. That's why I disagree with even the concept of Roe versus Wade. I had a cousin who had an abortion back in the day, and it was back in the day before it was legal. And so she had kind of a back alley abortion, and it really messed up her insides for many, many, many years. She was told she'd never reproduce. And then she had a miracle baby. But that'll probably get edited out. That's a little too personal to share. But, so, for me, the idea, look, not to be callous, because I am preaching the sovereignty of human life, but forget about humans and abortions for a moment, and let's talk about nature. Just household cats. I had a journey with a family of cats for a little while, so I read up on them. And you know, mama cats, and this happens actually out in the wild, you know, whether it's a cheetah, a lion, whatever, it's for some unknown reason, or maybe because resources are scarce, they will eat their young. So As I say that we are all connected to our Creator, no matter if we're, an amoeba, a bacteria, a lion, a gazelle, a zebra, or a human. I think we're blessed and lucky as a species to be sentient, and that was given to us by the force of creation. It's the mysterious order that our universe has taken place. We don't have an understanding of why the physical laws are the way they are, and we will never get an understanding of why. That's beyond us. It's not given to us for that understanding, but we can sure observe it because it's cool as heck. And the more we observe it, the farther we're able to look, the more we're able to understand, the deeper we're able to see the secrets of the universe, and eventually we may find proof that somebody else has reached our level through some but of course, if we see that they reached our level from now, most likely they're extinct by the time their signals reach us. And so that's kind of an understanding we got to be aware of as well. We can infer the presence of the Big Bang, but there's no physical way for us to reach the beginning of it. And even if we did, I don't think there would be anything there. We're human beings on one planet in one galaxy that belongs to a massive creator the size of this universe. That's how big our creator is. That's how far her awareness extends. So what we want to do is connect with that power of creation. And once you do, then you'll recognize that even the energy, I don't really necessarily think it increases the mass of our creator, but it certainly gets returned to him, or her, to change. And the reason we say him or her is I'm a him, so I'm going to say God is a him. If you're a her, I recommend that you say God is a her, because when I say him, I don't mean in a subjugating way at all. That's just how I identify with my creator, because that's my own orientation.